Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our January Washington Passport webinar. My name is Donna Quach. I am with the College Success Foundation. I serve as the program manager for the Washington Passport Network. It's good to see everyone here today. As a reminder, this webinar is our part 2 series of bringing voices of experience to the table. Specifically, this webinar is hearing from lived experts who have foster care experience and hearing about the amazing work that they're doing with the organizations, community, local organizations and agencies, and hearing more about ways in which we as Washington Passport members and part of the network can support the work and help elevate it. So a couple of things that I just want to remind folks of. So the chat is enabled for folks if you would like to, if you have any questions, feel free to drop your question in the chat and we will pass those over to and share that with the presenters as they finish their sections. And then another thing to note is that this webinar is being recorded so that we can share it with folks who aren't able to join the live session. Okay, at this point, I'm going to pass it over to our first presenter just to introduce themselves, and then we'll start the actual presentation. So Caitlin, I'll hand it off to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Wallen. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm with the Mockingbird Society. I have been a part of the Mockingbird Society for 2 years now.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to you, Summer Rose.
Hello, my name is Summer Rose. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am with Treehouse's CoLLab. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. All right, Esther.
Hi, everyone. I'm Esther Taylor, she, her pronouns. I am here representing Passion to Action as a P2A member. So I'm glad to be here and good to see you all today.
Wonderful. Thank you all for the quick introductions. Okay, before we get started, what we wanted to do is get a sense of who's joining us today. So we have a couple of poll questions for you. And at this time, I'm going to launch the polls. So there's 2 questions. We'll just spend a little bit of time. All right, you should see those on your screen. Great, I see folks are responding. Probably give it like 10 more seconds. All right, okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, so in terms of who's in the space today, so what sector do you come from and represent? Looks like many of you represent the education sector. We have some folks who are staff and are part of independent living programs, some behavioral and healthcare staff, lived expert, which is great, and other. If you indicated other, if you could drop in the chat, just interested to know what sector you're representing, that'd be great. And then the second question we have here is, what is your experience working with lived experts? So we have several of you shared providing general services or working alongside experts in your workplace, doing some co-design with lived experts. That's really great to hear. Providing educational services, no experience. So that's also really great to know that some folks are newer to this space of working with folks with lived experience. And then other as well. Legal aid. Okay, thanks for sharing that. Nicole, thanks for that intro. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing at this time. And then we have our first presentation from the Mockingbird Society team. In 1 second as I launch this. Oops. All right, Caitlin, handing it back to you.
Hello again, everyone. Just as a refresher, my name is Caitlin Wallen. I use she, her pronouns. I'm calling in from the land of the interior Salish. I've been at the Mockingbird Society for 2 years, and I just recently took the role of Eastern chapter leader. I will discuss our different chapters later. And I am also pursuing my bachelor's in human services. Next, please. At the Mockingbird Society, we create, support, and advocate for racially equitable, healthy living environments that develop and empower young people at risk of or experiencing foster care or homelessness. We accomplish experienced youth, homelessness, and foster care to be their own best advocates. In partnership with young people who have lived experience, we change policies and perceptions that stand in the way of every child having a safe, supportive, and stable home. We envision each young person, regardless of race or individual experience, reaching adulthood with an equitable opportunity to thrive. Next, please. So, the history of the Mockingbird Society. The Mockingbird Society was founded in 2000 to provide meaningful opportunities for youth and young adults to reform foster care. Its first project was the Mockingbird Times, originally a monthly newspaper written by young people who have experienced foster care. The Times aims to change public perception and educate readers on legislative work. The Mockingbird Society was founded by Jim Theophilus, and there is a clear link between experiences in the child welfare system and homelessness. In 2013, Mockingbird made a commitment to ending youth homelessness. Since then, our work has expanded to include working with foster families, child placing agencies, and other advocacy organizations. Next, please. We have 3 main program areas, including family programs, which is the Mockingbird. The Mockingbird family is our way of delivering foster care services modeled on the extended family structure. Public policy and advocacy is a department that focuses on direct advocacy and systems reform. And youth programs includes the Mockingbird Youth Network and the YA program. So somebody like me. The YA chapter stands for Youth Advocates Ending Homelessness. Youth programs has a focus on policy and youth development. Our regional chapters bring together young people ages 13 to 25 across the state who have experienced foster care and or homelessness. We help them advocate for resources needed to thrive. Next, please. So as you can see on the screen, this is a map of our regional chapters. And I come from that blue chapter right there, the Eastern chapter. Next, please. As chapters, we follow the Mockingbird advocacy cycle. This is our unique way of leading child welfare and youth and young adult homelessness reform in Washington. Phase 1 is identifying challenges. This starts in spring and goes from March until May. This phase is the most creative because it's when our young people are faced with the challenge of coming up with ideas for changes that they would like to see in the foster care or YYA homelessness system, so youth and young adult. Mockingbird participants have many conversations and activities that help participants reach consensus on their system reform idea. And then we get to part 2, defining solutions. This takes place in the summer from June to August. Participants start to draft proposals for their systems reform idea, and we present ideas to the community at our annual summit. Phase 3 is refining solutions. This takes place in the fall, and this is during the 3rd phase in our cycle. Participants work with staff and consult experts to identify advocacy pathways. We ask questions like, does our proposal need a legislative fix or a policy fix? Does it require funding? Participants finalize their proposals again, and the chapter leaders vote to approve the legislative agenda. And then we get to phase 4, advocating for change. This cycle takes place in winter. The final phase of our cycle is the most exciting because it's when we take the ideas that made it through to Olympia and do direct advocacy for our proposals. Hundreds of participants attend Youth Advocacy Day and advocate directly on behalf of their legislative priorities. Throughout the legislative session, participants provide testimony to make their voices heard. This is a current of the advocacy cycle that we're currently in. We will actually be going to Youth Advocacy Day on February 3rd. And if anyone would like a link, we would be more than willing to send a link to register. You can attend virtually and you can attend in person. And I would like to pass the mic real quick to Miss Ryan so she can go over a little bit about Youth Advocacy Day.
Hi, thank you, Caitlin. Youth Advocacy Day is our annual event where we march straight to the Capitol and we look legislators in the eye and we tell them exactly what these problems that we identified back in March through May. After we've refined our proposals and all of that stuff, so we're just going straight there and we just have them hear us, and that's usually just basically the gist of it. Everybody is welcome to join. What I'll do is I will go ahead and put together that link and then put it in the chat for y'all to register. And then I will also include my contact information. So that way, if you guys have any questions or if you have any referrals for youth and young adults toward our program, that'd be great too. So I will pass it back to Caitlin. Thank you.
All right, next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about guiding principles. These relate to how the Mockingbird Society partners with young people. Number 1, all people are experts in their own experience. As young people with our own experiences, we have powerful inside understanding of the system. Number 2, young people are capable to, and already do, make rational, tough decisions every day. Our experiences have shaped us in understanding what it means to survive. We know what it's like having to grow up at a young age, and our voices matter. And number 3, each and every one of our stories matter. We are leaders, and together we will change the system through our shared experiences. Now, I will be sharing some specific work Mockingbird is doing this legislative session related to ending youth and young adult houselessness. Next slide, please. The Peninsula chapter has noted that some youth under age 18 who are experiencing homelessness cannot safely return home. Youth under 18 cannot consent to their own shelter. In cases where youth cannot return home and their parents do not give consent or cannot be located, youth may end up experiencing homelessness. The Peninsula chapter is proposing a pathway for youth to be able to self-consent to shelter or private housing, such as with a family friend, when they cannot safely return home and while they are pursuing legal pathways such as dependency or guardianship. The chapter is considering what a safety assessment for that situation would look like to ensure that the youth's choice, is a safe space. Our current advocacy partner for this topic is the Watch It Coalition. I am so sorry. Hold up. I am so sorry, everyone. I have my toddler with me. Next slide, please. Here you go. In your door. Yes, ma'am.
What?
Juvenile records have significant consequences for young people.
Not in my door.
Okay, then you're gonna have to wait for a few minutes, please. Please be patient and let me finish talking, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Sound good? Okay, well, give me a few minutes. I'm so sorry, everyone.
No worries at all.
4-year-olds are a joy. Juvenile records have significant consequences for young people. They can cause youth to be denied for school, jobs, and homes. So they struggle to get on their feet as young adults. Despite the existence of automatic sealing for some juvenile records, a number of offenses are not eligible for automatic sealing, or sealing is dependent on full restitution. Many young adults aren't aware of the process and don't have someone who can help them through it. Prior to sealing, the records are open and actually accessible online, making it very difficult to actually pull back records. The Northern chapter is proposing a multi-part solution, making juvenile records confidential to begin creating a system of accountability to fine state agencies which fail to safeguard confidential or sealed juvenile records. Records are a large barrier in receiving housing, support, and employment opportunities. Almost 44% of homeless youth and young adults in a national survey had been in a juvenile detention center, jail, or prison. 40% of youth exiting JRA facilities have foster care history, and Black youth are nearly 3 times more likely than white youth to be arrested, 4 times as likely to be referred for prosecution, and are less likely to be offered diversion, which is community service. And Native and Latinx youth also face over-policing and harsh punishments. I'm so sorry. Next slide, please. The Seattle and YA chapters are proposing an expansion of extended foster care. Extended foster care exists to help young people who are dependents of the state when they turn 18. However, many young people in foster care are not receiving the support they need while in EFC, with some recipients still experiencing homelessness, food insecurity, and other financial struggles. Different studies show that around a quarter of youth exiting foster care are homeless within a year. We are working to expand eligibility and increase payments to support young people exiting foster care. Thank you for that definition. The current advocacy partner is the coalition, and we are trying to get as close to opt-out as we can, and this is aftercare for ages 21 through 26. Next slide, please. So the Eastern chapter, my chapter, is proposing that student to adulthood readiness training, or START, be a required course for high school graduation. In this course, students would be required to learn the basics of what it's like to live an adult life, including financial literacy, professional development, basic mechanics, basic cooking skills, and how to access resources in the area. Doing this will open more positions in schools for teachers to fill, as well as preventing homelessness in youth. By making this a high school requirement for all youth, everyone is given a chance at a successful adulthood. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening to our current major projects. There are several ways you can support the Mockingbird Society, even if you can't formally support the legislation. Mockingbird is preparing for Youth Advocacy Day on February 3rd, which is the big day our advocates travel to Olympia to lobby for these bills. If you'd like to come, have young people who are interested in this work or other community partners, please share the word. If you are really knowledgeable on any of these topics or want to become more heavily involved, we are looking for group leads for Youth Advocacy Day. You can go to our website and sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date with the most current events. You can also reach out to either Sierra's email on the screen or Elle, the engagement coordinator, on the phone with us with questions. And next slide, please. So as we reach the end of this presentation, are there any questions?
If you have any questions for Caitlin or Ryan, Caitlin, thank you so much for representing the Mockingbird Society. If you do have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. And then in the meantime, we're going to load the second presentation with Treehouse. And actually, Claire, you're going to be sharing screen, so I'll let you go ahead and do that.
That's right. Shall I pause, Donna, or shall I just go for it?
Oh, go ahead and go for it. I don't see any
Okay.
questions. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Caitlin. Nice job.
Yeah.
It was so clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. You can see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm going to introduce myself and then I'll pass it to Summer Rose. We're doing this collaboratively because, as you'll see, this whole project is very collaborative. So we're here representing the Treehouse Collaborative Learning Lab, or CoLLab. On the screen are the names of the people who participated in the first round of the CoLLab. One of the people is here, Katie. Shout out to you for joining us to support Summer Rose and me. And we wanted to introduce ourselves in the way that we often checked in the CoLLab meeting. So so we said, our names and pronouns. So I'm Claire Smith, pronouns are she and they. I am showing up in West Seattle on the lands of the Duwamish and Suquamish and Coast Salish people. And our prompt is, how are you showing up today? If anyone wants to put that in the chat, you're welcome to. For me, I'm showing up to this a little nervous. This is a really big audience, and this is a really cool, but also kind of new and emerging activity. So I'm really excited to share with you. And I've had a lot of fun collaborating with Summer Rose on this. And yeah, so I'm like nervous, excited together. Summer Rose, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, my name is Summer Rose. Again, I'm with Claire and Treehouse with our collaborative learning lab. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm coming in today kind of feeling the same way. I'm super excited, a little bit nervous. I don't know why Zoom just like makes me so much more nervous than like in person. But I'm super excited to share all the things that we've been doing with you guys. And I'm so glad that Katie's here too.
All right. So with that, Summer Rose and I are going to be kind of bouncing back and forth to share with you a little bit about CoLLab. We shaped this as a story because we really did a lot of story sharing in the CoLLab. So the beginning of the story is that Treehouse is known for a long time that we wanted to grow in our youth adult partnership work. And have any of you ever done the thing where you're like trying to think your way into like being perfect at something, and then you're like, oh wait, sometimes I just need to like do it? That's kind of where we were at. And so this CoLLab was one of the very first steps that Treehouse took. The intention was to lean into co-design, which we're very new at, and kind of take that first step into youth adult partnership at Treehouse. We did not have a focus when we started. We basically gathered people together and we're like, we want to start before the question. We want to say, what are the things that you care about? What is something meaningful that we want to work on together? Which we'll talk a little bit more about. But yeah, so we kind of started in this blank space of everyone coming in. And the structural pieces of that we launched this in February of 2022. Can't believe it's almost a year ago. We had super low barrier for participation. It was kind of come when you can. We didn't have a selection process necessarily. It was like, come to an info session. If it's interesting to you, show up. If the times work for you, come. And we ended up with a really amazing crew who showed up almost every single week. We started off bi-weekly. We thought, oh yeah, twice a month is plenty. And then as we got going, the message was just really clear. Like we wanted more of this time and more of this space. And so we adapted and we moved it to every single week. And it was compensated at $21 an hour. Because the professionals were getting paid for their expertise in the area. And so the lived experts, we wanted to make sure that they were paid. Actually, it was 25, wasn't it? Yeah, it was 25. That's a typo. To have people be paid for their expertise that they are bringing in. Is there anything else you want to add about the setup, Summer Rose?
No, I'll go with the next slide really fast. I wanted to bounce off what you said. We really all did, all the lived experts that were in there. Well, how I felt was that we really did just like receive a blank canvas and a bunch of paintbrushes, and they were like, let's go, let's get it. And we were all like, oh wait, we get the paintbrushes? Okay, fine. Like, let's get this picture. Let's get it all down. Like, let's figure out the colors we want. And so, yeah, and that was like one of the best things to ever happen to that group. I feel like that's why we all were so consistent in coming and stuff. Another thing that was super important to us right from the beginning was figuring out what our values were as a team. And a lot of it was like power sharing. A lot of it was about respect and trust and consistency. We were very open about and honest with Treehouse in general about like compensation and credit and getting recorded and like the researchers and stuff. And I feel like the like conversation that was had within that like really showed us that it was CoLLab and it wasn't just like these things that we had to do if we wanted to make that 25 bucks an hour, or like if we wanted to be in this group, it was like, no, you want to be here because you're choosing to be here fully. Like every time we went in. And yeah, so honored our commitments, gave a lot of feedback, and Claire and everybody else gave a lot of feedback to us lived experts too. That was also really nice. Do you have anything to say about this one, Claire, this slide?
I'm curious if people want to put in the chat which of these values stand out to you. Like, is there any one of these that you're like, oh yeah, that's one of mine, or that's yeah, anything will stand out. Just pause for a moment. Nice. I'm seeing psychological safety, informed and full consent, honor our commitments, partnership, respect, rumble, compensation and credit, consistency. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, and like Summer Rose said, we did spend a lot of time in this zone of like, not just what do we want to do, but how do we want to be together. And so this list kind of kept growing and growing and growing and then honing itself. So thanks for sharing that with us. So like I said, we started like way zoomed out. Katie actually explained it super well, like more zoomed out than most people were used to when they're asked to like join a group like this. So we kind of kept being like, okay, but what are we supposed to do? But like, what's the expectation? And like for myself included, it was kind of hard to think out of the box and be like, okay, but what matters to you? And so we went the first couple of meetings, we just shared who we are, what are our values, what matters to us, what are the things that we care about, that we want to see change. And we discussed that in several different ways. These are some of the things that came up. So I want to just like take a moment and like honor all of these things that people came in with like a passion around and a commitment to healing and changing and growing. You can see it's quite a spectrum. I made this little list because we wanted to be realistic too about like what are the things that there was that there was more groundwork in place, that maybe more people were already on board. So we kind of mapped them out here, and then we came and we talked and we talked and we talked. And the thing that we ended up deciding that everyone was like, yes, this is something that really matters to me and connects with this, isn't even on the list. But what do you want to talk about it, Summer Rose?
I feel like it's just like it's like the couple of bigger things that we all could decide were like the most important to us. We kind of just put them all like in this group of what we like decided to run with, which I feel like some of it is on here. I think it's just like change. It's just like worded a little differently and stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's all on here. Yeah, youth adult services program, everything support, middle school supports, that was a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we talked about kind of all these different like realms and different programs and different things, the thing that kept coming up is like people wanted more peer spaces, more peer supports, more times where there were like other people with lived experience and lived expertise in the room with them. Like that's the thing that people in the CoLLab said would have made a difference for them. And that's the thing that they wanted to offer to the younger people or people coming after them. And like, that's the thing that we wanted to spend time with. So we decided that, and then let's see, I think the next one is yours, Summer Rose. Yeah.
So like Claire said, we really spent a couple of meetings figuring out what felt most important to us, and not just within like foster care and stuff, but in our daily lives. And I feel like that's really how we came to peer support, because all of us felt like when we were younger, if we would have had that person to kind of ask help, or I mean, have help, and also just ask for advice and just different things like that, it kind of would have helped our, no, it absolutely would have helped our progression and just like the things that we wanted to do, our dreams, like what made us feel right, what made us feel comfortable. So that was a big thing, being realistic, and being realistic about the change that can be made. So like off that graph, like Claire was just saying, where does Treehouse hold more ground? You know, like what do we have more resources in? And then we also, after we decided on peer mentoring, how we kind of started that was by connecting to each other, really, in like the deepest ways that we could, by storytelling, sorry. And with that, we gained each other's trust. We learned each other's values even more than just what we valued within the group, but what we valued about each other's, like through human beings, you know, just souls. And then what about that we wanted to bring into CoLLab and keep here. And then the checking in and grounding and checking out and grounding was so important to all of us, because most of us would come in and just like be having this day, and it would be like never feel like it would end. And then by the time we were all checking out, it was like, I'm so thankful that I came to this space today. Like, I feel like a totally different person. I'm just, yeah, like, and that was just the most awesome thing, to not only check in with each other, but to check in with our own minds and ourselves, to be like, wow, like this really helped. And it also proved to us exactly what we were trying to do, right, with the peer mentoring and stuff. And it showed us that that's exactly what this group was meant to do. Next, please. Or unless Claire had something to say about this slide.
Oh, you kind of said it with like we would come in, we'd all be having a day, we'd have a plan, like, okay, we're going to accomplish blah, blah, blah. And like, we would sometimes, and a lot of times we'd start going and then we'd hit something and be like, oh, this is a really good question. We actually need to stop and spend time with that. Like one of the early meetings, you're talking about how we are going to be gathering data, right? Like this is like a focus group kind of thing. We have these norms, we had these research fellows who were there, and we're like, this is what it's going to be like. And again, Katie, shout out, was like, what did you say? Like, where is the lived expertise on that side? And if someone isn't there, it's not really co-design. So, and we were all like, huh, okay, like then let's not move forward, right? Like let's pause, let's attend to this, let's talk about like the pros and cons of recording our time. And so, yes, we usually had an agenda, and we usually threw at least part of it out the window in order to attend to like that community piece and that togetherness time, which was where the transformation, the magic was happening.
Some of the discoveries and lessons that we learned throughout CoLLab, and also before and after, is that moving at the speed of trust, that was like so important, I feel like, to all of us, to even be able to have the storytelling piece that we have, let alone to have the trust and the community and the consistency in all of like our relationships and stuff like that. And even afterwards, anyway, sorry. And then full participation, that was also like so crazy. I've just never been in a space where like every single person was so like, not just like, oh, like I want to participate in this because like I have to, or I feel like I need to. It was like we all just wanted to be there, and it felt so right. We're all always on like camera the whole time, and just like always kind of like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, my bad, hold on really fast, sorry, you know, like just like, and it was like awesome, it was super cool. But like it was just we're all in a group in a room, and yeah, we really identified each other's strengths, and we really leaned into them. As Claire's been saying, Katie was freaking awesome at like saying what we all wanted to say. Like she just kind of said it in such a nice way that we were all like, but also in a way that was like, you gonna hear me, that all of us were so like, yep, we felt that, but we just didn't want to say that. So thank you for, you know what I mean? But just having those different people of like, who can speak up here and where who can be nice there and what can be said here and what, staying connected has been really awesome too. Claire has been, yes, we had a barbecue, we all got to meet in person, like that was freaking magical. Like I'm still dreaming about the next one, guys. I'm group
Yeah.
intentions and values, sorry, group intentions and values right from the beginning, like we said, that was what set up the whole, what I feel like is a tree, a painting of a tree, beautiful. Especially like that's what created how well we communicated and respected each other throughout the whole CoLLab. And also the last with Mockingbird Society, they said everybody knows, like everybody's everybody's experts in their own experience, and that like blew me out the water. Like I'm just gonna reiterate that now instead of saying like foster kids know or foster youth know what, you know, like that is exactly it. And listening to each other, and before you're thinking about what you're gonna say next, like we all were very in tune with that. And yeah, I don't know, it was just awesome, this group. Guys.
Yeah, totally. I love that way to build on on the previous presentation too. Katie, not to put you on the spot, but since you're here, if there's anything else that you want to add, because like we said, this is super collaborative. If you want to add in any discoveries or lessons, want to give you the space for that.
I knew that was coming. Thanks for space. I couldn't agree more. Like everything that Samar said, everything that Claire said, they're perfectly captured here. It was really cool to be in a space where like the leaders didn't exactly know where we were going, and the fella or the cohort of like CoLLab people didn't exactly know where we were going. But instead of like the leadership team taking control and like providing direction, they were patient and they were kind and they waited and they asked the right questions to get us to follow through with like what we wanted CoLLab to be. It wasn't like oh, it's too much blank space, let's draw some lines. It was like, here's your blank space, like we'll help you figure out where your paintbrushes are, but you really have to draw the lines and fill it in and do the colors. It was just a really cool platform to be able to engage in and like meet so many awesome community members who have lived experience, and then watch Treehouse step into like that growth area of itself, and learn more about CoLLab literally while we were practicing, or about co-design literally while they were trying to practice co-design. It was a really, really cool experience to be a part of. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Katie. So well said. I love the metaphors, the like paintbrushes and all of that. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of cool to like be really genuinely making it up together. And I'll just add to the brilliance that Summer Rose and Katie just shared and say like, as someone with outlived expertise, right, as someone who's in this work as a professional, like pathway kind of person, I've known that like showing up authentically matters, and like CoLLab really invited me to participate more fully than I ever have before, and like really be a human with people, which was terrifying and also really, really powerful. And I don't think I had realized before how essential like full authentic participation is to power sharing. Like if I'm sitting over here with my this is my job kind of armor, then I'm not actually with people. I'm not actually sharing the power. I'm not actually being impacted or transformed. I'm not joining in the movement in that way. So yeah, y'all called me out in the best, most beautiful way. And I'm just going to be like forever transformed by that. Which brings us to the end, but not really. So the CoLLab was originally, we're like, we're going to do it for 6 months and then we're going to be done. And we're like, oh no, honey, we have a lot more to do. And peer mentoring in terms of like what that would look like in terms of program, or is it a non-program space? We have a lot of questions. We left with so many questions. And if we're moving at the speed of trust and we're being thoughtful, it's slow work. So We're right now kind of in the process of having CoLLab 2.0, trying to find our rhythm, determining our focus, kind of making a game plan together. And I don't want to pretend like everything was perfect, right? Like the ambiguity and like that kind of open space sometimes made it hard to feel like we're accomplishing things. And there's challenges with that in terms of like, what am I doing this for? So I think we're still in the process of like discovering that together. But that said, like, as it keeps unfolding, I think that everyone who's been there has been changed forever and transformed. And that's going to go into the future CoLLabs and also into all the other realms of work, because these CoLLabers are in wonderful spaces, are like, they're touching many different parts of the world, but beyond Treehouse, which like, duh, I'm very happy about that.
So just to add on to what Claire just said, I think that like the magic behind it was the vulnerability that we were all like able to feel off of each other. Like I've never allowed myself to be so vulnerable in a space of humans that I don't really know all too well, if I'm being honest with you, right? I think that just held up a lot in our values and just trusting each other and trusting the process, and also leaning into each other. That was really big. Our CoLLab secret sauce, this was huge during CoLLab. This was so funny. Was hopefulness, being open, flexible, loving, supportive facilitators. It's a journey, and I think with that, like moving at the speed of trust, we all decided that, knowing that it was going to be a slower ride, but that it was going to come with so many more like Claire just said, so many more things that we can take on to CoLLab 2.0 and further, right? It's a journey intention from the start, and we kept that intention throughout the whole time. We held mutual respect for each other, the most honest energy, which can't even lie about that. That was insane. Yeah, we compensated, creating a humanizing space. That was big. That was big too. Yeah, opening and closing and making space for each other regardless of agendas. That was something that Claire did for us each and every single meeting, that she just made sure that we always made space for how we were feeling and what we were going through and what different things were just on our mind that day, rather than the agenda that she had worked with hours and hours and hours on. Like seriously, it was, yeah, and never made us feel indifferent about it or anything. So just going over this makes me like, oh,
it was magic. Yeah. So we hope that this can communicate. When Summer Rose and I were talking, like, what do we want people to get out of this? We're like, we want them to like get the feeling of it. So we hope that kind of landed for you all. And if you have questions or anything, yeah, I think we still have a couple minutes, maybe.
Yeah, if you have any questions for the Treehouse team, definitely feel free to drop that in the chat. And then I think at this time, we're going to turn it over to our last group of presenters here. Esther. And then let me pull up that PowerPoint for the Passion to Action team. Summer Rose and Claire and Katie, thank you so much for sharing about the great work that you all are doing at Treehouse and specifically with CoLLab. Looking forward to hear what 2.0 will be. And it definitely sounds like it's been such a great space that you all have been able to create for the community. Okay, and at this time, let me go ahead and share. Oops, some spotlight. All right, Esther, 1 second. I'm going to load up your PowerPoint.
You're good, totally good.
Hi, I apologize, but I think my technology is messing up. My name is Sawyer Bogue. I'm an ILS case manager here with Pierce County Alliance. I actually just wanted to say, because this might be more direct than the direct messages, Summer Rose, there is someone trying to get in contact with you. And if you're comfortable with me sending those messages to you, that might be a little bit better than the tech issues I am getting, because it looks like I'm getting these messages instead of Summer Rose.
Oh, okay. Thank you
Cool.
for flagging that.
Sorry about
Sawyer.
that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to give you a heads up.
No worries. Thank you for that. Okay. Let me pass this over to Esther. All right, Esther, floor is yours.
Donna. All right. Hi, everyone. Once again, I am Esther. I am a member of Passion to Action. And today I am here on behalf of them and representing what we do and the importance of our work and the impact of our work. So Passion to Action is about taking steps, giving youth and alumni who've experienced the foster care system always a seat at the table to express what they've gone through, and also the importance of the ideas that each person that has experienced the foster care system has to implement into the system to make the system a better outcome for a lot of youth who are currently in the system and who will be placed in the system in the future. Next slide, please. So here's our mission for Passion to Action. As youth and alumni of the foster care system, we, Passion to Action, advocate for positive change. We collaborate with others to develop innovative alternatives to existing and potential problems facing foster youth. We create and facilitate change in order to ensure that not only are the needs of our brothers and sisters in foster care met, but that they are provided with opportunities to succeed in life. So this is for young people, by young people. And what we mean by this is that we want each and every single person that's a part of Passion to Action or will join Passion to Action in the future to feel like, okay, this is training ground for me to better my leadership skills, better my public speaking skills, better my resource skills, better my advocacy skills. We want people to feel like that they belong at Passion to Action and that what they have to offer is valuable, and what they have to offer and grow in as well for themselves is going to be valuable for them in other work that they continue to do in the future. Next slide, please. So what is Passion to Action? Good question. Passion to Action is a foster youth and alumni advisory board for Washington State's Department of Children, Youth and Families. P2A has made great strides to include youth voice and to improve many aspects of Washington's child welfare system. P2A is committed to promoting changes where changes are needed and to help identify what is working well. And I want to add to this, you know, definitely the foster care system has changed in positive ways throughout the years. And I wanted to add and echo the voices of young people and alumni who have been greatly impacted by the foster care system. Whether negatively or positively, everyone's experience matters for what it has been. Here at P2A, we believe in tackling what hasn't worked also in the foster care system. We live in a society where you have to keep the peace, be positive, stay positive, keep a good mindset. But talking about the things that have not gone well in the foster care system is not a negative thing either. And this is the mold that we're trying to break. It's like, it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to express what you've been through, what you dealt with personally. And also to not to generalize everybody's experience in the foster care system. Because yes, you know, we're not alone in what we've all been through in the system, but individually it's important to empathetically meet people where they are, because then they feel like, wow, you are actually valuing me for my story and my experience and not just trying to put me in a category with just everybody else and say, oh, everyone else has been through it, but you're actually looking at my story for what it is. That's important too. And next slide. So continuing on with what is Passion to Action, we center youth in the work. It's an essential key for positive change in the foster care system. P2A provides an outlet for youth who want to advocate for other youth as well as build a community for themselves. P2A promotes leadership, professionalism, and success of our members. So being able to get together once a month or for a few hours is impactful. We get a lot done. We talk about a lot of things. We're able to look at documents that we want to make edits to that involve involve changing the foster care system, involve implementation, involve youth voice, alumni voice. Again, that's always going to be at the core of P2A, is giving people who have experienced the foster care system, who are experiencing the foster care system, a seat at the table, but being front and center. Next slide, please. Now, what does P2A do? We have quality assurance. We ensure youth voice is incorporated in the work DCYF performs, advise DCYF on the agency's current policies and practices, advocate within DCYF for system improvement, provide input on DCYF publications and program materials. So once again, having a strong relationship with DCYF is important to us, because when we're given the opportunity to say something about foster care, what needs to change, what hasn't worked, we're going to take advantage of that opportunity, because we believe in the importance of, once again, alumni and youth voice. And we represent lived experts on child welfare panels, advisory groups, committees, workshops, and a multitude of other things. So we utilize P2A for not just meeting together once a month as just a cohort and as a group, but we also expand and we put our work on panels. We talk about the work that we do on panels, because this work is very important to us. Next slide, please. Now, here's public education. Educate the public on the experience of being in the foster care system and what is helpful for positive change. There is a lot of stigmas tied to the foster care system. There's a list, just metaphorically saying a list of stigmas that are tied to the foster care system. And that greatly impacts someone's experience trying to navigate living in this world, let alone trying to find their individuality in this world. And so as a Passion to Action cohort and as a group, we are here to tackle and educate society and the public on why these stigmas are harmful. Also, along with stigmas, believing in our worth as young people and alumni who have been in the foster care system. We educate the public on us not being defined by our experiences in foster care. And we also educate the public on why the ideas that we've come up with to combat the things that have happened in the foster care system are great ideas. And we discuss our ideas. And again, we come together as a cohort and bounce off of one another, which is important too. Teamwork, group work, which is very important. We have leadership development, participate in personal and professional development activities, public speaking, develop and facilitate presentations, volunteerism, and advocacy. Next slide, please. Now, one thing I really want to highlight and emphasize about P2A, here are a few important aspects of this group. P2A is big on everyone having a seat at the table. So when it comes to anyone who identifies in the LGBTQIA community, P2A celebrates and does not discriminate anyone from this work based on sexual identity, orientation, gender expression, etc. We're in full support of people being who they are and who they are meant to be at the P2A table. Your true identity and representation matters to P2A. Also, we discuss the importance of representation for people who identify in the LGBTQIA community when placed in the foster care system. More times than not, people who identify in the LGBTQIA community are placed in homes that don't represent what they stand for, that are either religious and are dismissive of their sexual orientation, sexual identity. And here at P2A, we want to give anyone who has ever experienced this the platform to say, I have experiences and that was wrong for the system to put me in a home that didn't match who I was or didn't respect who I was. And we want to always give people that space to be able to express that and say, here are some solutions or ideas that I've come up with so that another person who's put in the system does not have to experience this. Now, racial equity. P2A recognizes the disparities communities of color face compared to their white counterparts, and we're in full support of communities of color having seats at the table. Additionally, our meetings tackle racial disparities, that communities of color experience in the foster care system, and we discuss solutions to these issues. Now, being Black African-American myself, I can definitely attest to how more often than not, and it's more common for more youth of color to be placed in the system than their white counterparts. And so these are things that we talk about within our P2A meetings, and the importance of why this needs to change, and how the likelihood of a Black person being put in the foster care system perpetuates racial stereotypes and stigmas that are already ingrained in America. So this is important work that we're doing once again as a P2A team, is when we address these things that are usually dismissed. Again, someone's sexual orientation, someone's racial identity, these things are important to talk about and come up with solutions for. Next slide, please. Now, P2A has a relationship with UW-Tacoma. So here are a few activities that we do. With UW-Tacoma students in the social work master's degree department, P2A participated in interviews for students' capstone projects that center around improving the lives of youth in care. I personally was a participant in this capstone project, and what it showed me, and I'm sure anyone else can agree on this, is that it showed that our voices are being moved in the right direction, that other people are hearing what we have to say when it comes to the foster care experience and what it's been like for each individual who has experienced it personally. So the fact that UW-Tacoma valued our expertise and wanted to get our input on their capstone project and involving us in it meant a lot to us. And P2A helped with the co-design process for the IL Transitions Redesign Project. A couple of P2A members were identified as co-hosts to provide support to the co-design participants and help in engagement of each session. Now, recruiting the right caregiver is important. P2A partnered with DCYF Licensing Division to identify who an ideal caregiver is for special populations, such as LGBTQIA, Black and African American, behavioral and medically fragile youth. P2A attended co-design sessions and represented youth perspective of what characteristics types of a caregivers is needed for each special population and efforts on how to recruit them. The project also included attending caregiver resource fairs, talking to potential caregivers, and media recruitment flyers. Once again, anything advocacy-based, anything that passionately tackles the topics of foster care, youth homelessness, and everything based around that, P2A will definitely be there to advocate. Next slide, please. And continuing with our activities, P2A has had a big part in advocating for better transitioning planning for youth in the foster care system by helping create job descriptions. P2A is also involved in panels Thank you. P2A is also involved in panels where youth who've been in the system are given opportunities to tell their personal stories about being in the system and talk about solutions to make the system better. We also have reviewed, edit, and create important documents and materials to ensure that youth are at the center of the work, and what we think should be conveyed throughout the document is captured in a youth-friendly way. Last slide, please. Now, as I conclude this presentation, I want to reiterate the importance of the work that Passion to Action does. So Passion to Action values the voices and input of youth who've experienced the foster care system. Passion to Action believes that everyone, no matter your race, sexual identity, and orientation, no matter what background, deserves a seat at the table. Passion to Action is all about advocating for positive change in the foster care system. Passion to Action will continue to flourish because of the people that we have on this team that are passionate about this work. And last but not least, Passion to Action is proud of the work that we've accomplished so far and will accomplish in the future. Thank you.
Esther, thank you so much for representing Passion to Action, and also Peggy Lewis for your help with preparing for the presentation. We are at time, but I did want to just leave maybe 30 seconds to see if there's any comments or questions that folks have. And then we do want to just ask if folks are able to take our survey. Mustafa, if you could drop that survey in the chat. We just like to hear if you have any feedback for us as the Washington Passport Network. It really takes just a few minutes to fill out some of those options on the survey. Thank you for that. And also want to give a big thank you again to our webinar presenters. So Caitlin, Summerrose, Claire, Esther, Ryan, and Peggy also for your support. Thank you so much for representing your organizations and sharing about the great work that you all are doing. It's so good to see, and look forward to Youth Advocacy Day, hearing more about Passion to Action's work and CoLLab's work. And then thank you to the WPN for joining us this afternoon. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.